Ay, ay, ay. Shit, what did we get up to last time? Attributes. That's what we got up to. That is what we got up to, indeed. All right, guys. April will be in just a minute. She's getting ready. I just wanted to get going here, see if there's any questions before we get started on her tutoring session. Oh man, I am tired today. By the way, we have a special edition for April Learns to Code tomorrow. We are going to be at a hackathon. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Saturday. It's a 3-day hackathon. I don't know what day she's going to come, but one of those days we will be doing the tutoring session from the hackathon. It's going to be a great way for me to network, for April to network, and we'll go from there. But I'm excited about it. And it's going to be, she's going to get a little insight into the hackathon life, for better or for worse. Baby, you coming in here or what? Baby. Come on. It's only day 17, baby. Stop pooping out. You ready? You ready to rumble? David Yang is always the first one in here. I was telling about how we're going to have a special edition where it may be hackathon edition.
Yeah, I was thinking how we were going to do that.
Yeah. It's happening somehow. I don't care if I have to cry myself through it out of exhaustion. Because I can barely do this after work as it is right now. Is this serious mode?
It's serious today.
You got your glasses on today?
Yeah. I've been staring at a computer all day. My eyes are starting to give out.
I've been staring at a computer for like 5 years straight now.
Well, you know, you should get your glasses tinted.
My glasses tinted. Let me see. Let me see if that actually helps.
It helps.
Let me see. Well, they're not prescription, so
No.
I can't
But
see.
I want to get mine tinted.
Ugh. All right, guys. So, did you want to show off where you're at in your portfolio?
Sure.
Is it the same as what you sent me?
Yeah.
All right, so let's get everybody caught up with what April is doing on her portfolio right now, because tomorrow's homework day, D-Day, and so she's pulling an all-nighter tonight to finish it, or else we shame her. Shame.
You know, I got 3 interviews tomorrow, so you can just shove it.
Shame. All right, so let's see. I'll show everybody where you're at right now. So far, April has her portfolio section, her projects, and her contact section, and then photos.
Photos! Yeah!
I don't think there's a photo section.
Not
Hey,
extra.
Hey, Jason. Nice to talk to you again.
Hey, from the Philippines. Was it Salamat po.
All right.
He knows what that means.
All right. So we're gonna continue on going over things, going over the HTML library. Everything we've been covering so far has been HTML4 and before, I guess. So hey, you ready?
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't been around my coworkers who were all Filipino when I was in California, so I'm kind of losing it. But for like a smidge bit, I was pretty like I could have a conversation in Tagalog. So
Yeah, Matt takes Tagalog lessons.
I know. I wish we could speak so that I could like keep it up. Cause like all my Tagalog friends, or not my Tagalog, sorry, all my Filipino friends, all they want to do is speak English because they want to correct their English, and I'm an English major, so they're like, oh, teach me, teach me, teach me. And I'm like, so they only want to talk to me in English, and I only want to talk to them in Tagalog, but whatever.
All right, so let's continue.
Hi Jordan, thanks for tuning in.
All right, so the value
Hi
attribute.
Daniel.
The value attribute sets the initial value for the field.
I know, we've been over that.
Okay. Read-only attribute means that you're only going to be able to see the value attribute. You're not going to be able to change it.
Read only. Yeah, we talked about all that.
I know, we're going through all of them line by line. Give me a second. I'm brushing you up. This is where we stopped, okay? Can you get Chubba Bub Bub down?
Come here, Chub Chub.
Come on, Chubby. Alright, so we've talked about the disabled attribute as well.
Mm-hmm.
The size attribute for how wide it should be. We've also talked about the max length attribute for... Have we talked about the max length? Okay, so max length is how many characters can go in here. So first name has max length of 10. See what it ends?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And you'll do this for a variety of reasons.
I don't like that because what if your last name is longer than 10 letters?
Well, that sucks. But I mean...
I feel like that's almost discriminatory.
Alright. Now we're getting into HTML5 attributes. How many hoodies do I own and what brand? I own about 30 hoodies.
I was not kidding.
And there are a bunch of different brands.
Yeah. He has more clothes than I do right now.
I'm a hoodie connoisseur.
You guys want to get him anything, it's a hoodie.
Alright, let's see here. So, some of these things we're going to talk about right now are the HTML5 attributes, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Attributes that are only in HTML5. For the sake of this, you only you can consider this the same as HTML. Okay.
Oh, okay.
HTML5's been around long enough that you don't have to worry about using HTML5. Like ES6 is the newest version of JavaScript, still pretty new, so some browsers may have issues with it. HTML5 not so much. So autocomplete, if we have something saved in this field normally, like, I'll have my section, it'll do that.
Oh, so you can actually initiate autocomplete?
Yes.
From a developer's point of view?
Yes.
Wow.
Alright, Achilles.
I was wondering why some of that was like...
What is going on with these cats right now?
Automatic or not. Achilles, our smallest, youngest cat, is blocking our view.
Come on, buddy. Daddy can't see.
One of the screens.
Come on. Scoot on by.
He's scared of this.
The humidifier?
Yeah.
Or the... Alright,
What? I love our kitties. Ooh, it's okay, baby.
It's like, I don't like that. Alright, the autofocus. So see how when we load our page, it auto jumps to it? That's the autofocus. See how we're already in here?
Yeah, when it goes straight to the page, it's already loaded in there.
Yeah, you can only have one autofocus.
Oh.
Because you can't have both of them loaded at the same time. Make sense?
Yeah, okay.
Alright. And everything we're talking about, these seems like, oh, well, you wouldn't have to put that in there. No, but what it does do is one, it makes a better product, and two, it makes you look like a better developer.
Yeah.
All right, we've already talked about the form.
I got this monkey. Hey, Jason meowing.
So, in HTML5, remember how I told you everything had to be nested in the form tag?
Yeah.
Not the case in HTML5. So what you can do is you'll still have the form tag and you'll still need that, but you can set form equal to the ID of the form, and this will still be part of it. Do I need closed chat?
No, okay. Bye, Weatherhaven.
We already talked about the form attribute. Form action. The form action attribute specifies the URL of a file that the process will with the input control when the form is submitted. We'll worry about this one later. The encode type. This is a little behind, but sometimes you have to put how you're going to encode the form data that you're submitting. And no one's vaping, it's just the essential oil diffuser. Let me close Steam real quick. Alright, we already talked about form method, form validate, form target. All these are form. Alright, so we've talked about height and width attributes. The list attribute, we've talked about that as well, which is the how we do drop downs. We've talked about min and max for, you can use the min and max in here for dates and quantities, right? And then depending on the type will be how it displays. The multiple attribute. The multiple is let's say we select this one. Oh, this is a file image. So type is file. See how we now I thought I was going to show case multiple. But I guess we have to do like this. But see how it's just 3 files now? So if we want to use the file type, we use type file, and then we put the multiple on there if you want it to be more than one.
What if you just wanted one?
Then you wouldn't have multiple on there. It'd still be type file.
Well, what if you wanted one or multiple?
Then you'd have multiple. You'd only select one.
Okay. Bye, Jason.
The pattern attribute takes in what's called a regular expression. What that means is that there's a certain way that you can put in, this is a regular expression right here. It basically says, hey, this pattern is the only way that this is valid. So like in an email, you might have Dylan's email 310 and then at gmail.com. That'd be a valid email.
Oh, okay. So you're keeping track of the at and the .com
and the words in front of it and stuff like that. And so you write a regular expression to do that, and this pattern attribute takes it in. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, we're not going to worry too much about regular expressions. That's part of JavaScript, but that's the placeholder attribute. This is if you want something to be in there before anything's in there. So you see how first name is in there, and we type Dylan, it's gone. But if it's back to empty, that's called a placeholder.
I was looking at that last night.
Required attribute is also pretty common. So what that means is if we select this, and this basically, lets the form know that this is required and won't submit it without it. Must be filled out. That's what the required word does.
So I won't let you move without filling it out.
Yeah, what is this? The step attribute. I guess if we wanted the number counter to jump, we could set the step attribute to do that. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't be able to go in and do this if we did 52. That's strange. I've never used that one before. Okay, so that was some real quick attributes. A lot of the form ones, you're not really gonna have to worry about till later on. But we're gonna jump into HTML5 now. The way that you define an HTML5 document is with this doc type tag and HTML in it. And if you want to put in the meta tag, UTF-8 as well. It's just basically just busy stuff. You gotta do it sometimes. Alright. So this is where we added those elements. Remember we were talking about header, footer, article, section? Those are actually HTML5 things as well. HTML5 has a lot of APIs, and one is you can get geolocation.
Ooh.
Another thing is drag and drop, local storage, cache, web workers, and I'm not sure what SSE or web workers is. But stuff got removed as well. So acronym got removed and says use this instead. Applet, base font, big, center. So the center tag step. These are all things that got removed as of HTML5 that you don't want to use anymore. So everything here, which I don't think you're using.
No, thank God. Oh my God.
All right, let's jump. Let's continue forward. Web workers are for usage offline. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't used it. At least I don't think I have. So these are all block elements. Header, section, footer, aside, nav, main, article, figure.
Yeah, we went over this.
Okay. Add new elements to. You can also create your own elements in HTML5. There's really no reason for you to do it now, but it's good to note that because when you work with JavaScript frameworks like React or with like Angular, you'll actually do that. James, welcome, sir. All right. We talked about being able to do these comments. Don't worry about it. If someone's programming for IE9 and Microsoft doesn't even fucking update for IE anymore, I don't worry about updating it. So, all right, we've already talked about all these. Okay, so there's new input types. Color, date time local, email, month, number, range, search, tell time, URL, week. So some of these will be familiar because they got bundled into the other stuff. New input attributes. Don't worry too much about that. Alright, so technically you can not have quotes in here. Have quotes. Okay. So you have 4 different ways to do the same thing. The way that you should do it is right here, double quoted. Does that make sense?
Sure. Why wouldn't you use quotes?
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Because you don't have to. But you should.
Why?
Because that's the standard and makes cleaner code.
There's no standard.
There's a standard.
I just read a sentence in a book that says there's no...
Just use quotes. Alright, graphics. So there's also graphics. There's canvases, so you can draw, and then there's what's called scalable vector graphics, or SVG, which we'll dive into a little bit later. There's also new media elements: the audio tag, the embed tag, the source tag, the track tag, and the video tag. Let's see, new semantics, we already talked about that. Let's see. Footer element, we've talked about. A side element, we've talked about. Figure and fig caption, we've talked about. Alright, we've already discussed all that. Migration. So this is a good example to show you. So you're talking about how do I name certain things. A lot of where these names came from are things that were common already.
Yeah, I was trying to find those out.
So you have like typical HTML4, for instance. You would have an ID called header. So instead they just say, hey, this is becoming kind of a standard in how web pages are built. Create a header tag. A menu, create a nav tag. Content, create a section tag. Article, create an article tag. Footer, create a footer tag. So that's how these kind of came about. All right.
Well, what's the correlation with the div?
They're all containers. Remember, divs are containers.
Yeah.
So these are just containers that you can, like, you're only going to have one footer. So let's just make a footer tag. It's still kind of like a div, and you can do it in the HTML4 way, but you shouldn't. All right. God, I didn't think we'd be spending 3-4 days on fucking HTML. Why
not?
So when you create your elements, it's all lowercase. You already know that. For now in HTML5, close. So it used to be that, remember how some things have two tags, an opening and closing, and some don't? It used to be that you had to throw a slash on there at the end of if it's a self-closing tag, or just the one tag. Now you don't have to.
Yeah, you told me that.
Okay.
You snapped at me. You're like, you don't need that in there, and then you didn't tell me why. But I got it now.
I don't think I snapped. Alright. Let's see if there's any other good examples. You can omit the HTML and the body tag if you want. I typically put it in there, but to each their own. Viewport, we've already talked about that stuff. File extensions. Alright, cool. On to the next section. It's not too much there, just kind of going over some small changes. So the canvas. Let's try it out ourselves. So you can draw things now. See how this box is drawn? You can say, oh, well, it's just a div with a border. It's not. What we've done is we've created a canvas, which we're actually drawing. We're instructing the HTML to draw something. In this case, it has a width of 200 and a height of 100, and it's drawing it with a border. So let's go on to a more advanced example. Draw a line. So this stuff can get pretty complicated pretty quick. Here, and you'll see now that we're using JavaScript. You can use JavaScript to do this as well. But you have a height and a width of the canvas, and then within it we are drawing. So you draw, the canvas is this, and then within our canvas we're drawing right here.
Ooh.
So
as a web developer, you can draw shit with code.
Yeah, I have yet to come across a situation where you would need to.
Will you imagine somebody like just painting something and it's just all coded?
Is that how banner ads are made with Canvas? No. Banner ads are not made. They're just GIFs that are put in there. Yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time with this because you'll forget most of it.
Circle.
But yeah, you can draw a circle. So all these things, just know that you can draw shapes and arrows and fucking everything else under the sun. And if you want to do that, you're gonna have to Google that shit.
Would it? Can you make dots?
Yeah, we just made a circle, so we can make a small circle and fill it in.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? Someone could actually make a portrait with that.
Yeah. You can also do linear gradients as well, like this. Circular gradients. Yeah, so I'm not gonna spend a lot of time going over that. Just know that there are ways to draw in HTML5. So screen vector graphics, it takes that canvas idea and makes it a little bit more crazy. So now instead of just drawing, we're actually gonna create these graphics. The way screen vector graphics work is based off math essentially, and so they scale no matter how close you get perfectly evenly. That's one of the benefits of screen vector graphics. And so in the circle you have a CX, a CY, and a radius. So your X coordinate, your circle X coordinate, your circle Y coordinate, and a radius of 40. And then the stroke width, and then stroke being the outside, and then fill of yellow. Now SVG is important because there are libraries like D3, which is used to make bar charts and things like that that are made off the premise of SVG. So you can make rectangles, and you have your rec here, your rec tag. Now notice how the SVG is kind of like your canvas and or your container, and you set how big it is, and then you can draw stuff within it, or you can have it create stuff within it, I guess. Rounded rectangle, SVG star. So this is a polygon. You can see how many points go into here, right? So it starts getting really complicated really quickly.
That's cool though.
Yeah. Linear gradient, SVG logo. Lots of crazy stuff. So you can also display maps on your webpage. This is something I did today using what is called Open Layers, which is an API. But it's pretty straightforward. So you see here we have this map, and we're in London apparently. That didn't work. This is beyond you right now. We're not gonna worry about that. Yeah, it's strange that they put the Google map in here. Yeah, we'll wait till we get to JavaScript before we start talking about this. HTML5 media. All right. We're gonna continue blowing through. We're getting into the more advanced stuff that I really want you to just know it exists, and when the time comes, you need to dive into the documentation on your own, because you're not gonna remember how to create a 7-point star. You're gonna remember that you can, and then you're gonna go look at the documentation and do it. That's the reality of the situation. So they have a bunch of different file formats, audio formats, all that sort of stuff. No big deal. HTML5 video. So you can embed things like this. What is this?
That looks creepy.
That's super creepy.
What the hell? Where the fuck did they get that?
That's courtesy of Big Buck Bunny, apparently.
Oh, Big Buck Bunny!
I don't know.
I was like, but Big Buck Bunny, I didn't think.
Okay, so let me explain to you how this
I don't
works.
remember how he looks.
So you have a video tag, and you set a width of a video. You then add the controls tag in here if you want controls on here. And you have these source tags. Notice how they're only one tag each. And you put in this MP4 is probably the best one to go. And then you just put type video / if it's MP4. And then if this one fails, say the browser can't load MP4s, it will then load this one right here.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's why there's
Like
two
fonts.
in there. Yeah, exactly. You can also set up the autoplay as well. If you want something to play automatically. Let's see. Audio, same concept with audio. There's an audio tag, and you can have it autoplay, and you have controls as well. And you can have, same thing. This one plays. If
MPG, I want my MPG.
Oops.
Sorry, guys, it just reminded me of a commercial. I think I was a little off too.
I don't know what the object element is. So let's learn together.
You do too.
No, this is different. I know what objects are. I don't know what the object element is. The object element defines embedded objects within an HTML document. Okay. So, if you want to embed things like a PDF reader, a Flash player, or a Java applet, like a third-party supported plugin, you can do that using the object as well as embed.
What do you mean plugin? I thought plugins didn't have to be embedded.
Well, so let's say I'm making a Java applet, which is something that you would probably do in a computer science program. You make a Java applet. I've made a couple. I would compile that down to a SWF file or a .java file, rather, and I could embed it into my page to do certain things. You know how we like embedded with the iframe another HTML page? Kind of like that, except with an application.
Okay.
All right, HTML YouTube. Let's just go to YouTube and I'll show you. Milo. Fuck off. Alright, buddy. So if we go here and we want to copy the embedded code, and then let's open up a text editor real quick. Baby, can you get him down, please?
No.
And you want to open up a text editor anytime in the future here. Gosh damn it. Let me just pull this up. What in the fuck is going on with this shit?
He's always so offended when you put him down.
Alright, so look. So we just copied something to allow this to embed. Now they auto-generate this code, but we create an iframe. We set a width and a height, and then allow full screen. You may not want to allow a user to go full screen, but here it does. And the source for where the video is. Frame border, I don't know what that does. That's, but maybe there's not a border.
Remember we already crossed that.
Okay, so this is how you would embed a YouTube video. That's all the only point I'm trying to get across here. There's other ways as well, but in this case, that's what they wanted to bring up. Geolocation. Alright, so this is a particularly interesting one. How many video formats do you have to put in your code to cover the major browsers? So, the major browsers, you probably only need one, man. To be honest with you, the only one that's going to give you any issues most of the time is going to be IE. I don't give a fuck about IE. Microsoft doesn't support it. I don't support it. Now,
Yahoo doesn't support
the next
it.
one that will the next one that will give you trouble is in general, by the way, is Firefox.
What about Safari?
I don't use Safari. I have no idea.
Safari
But I've heard Safari is a piece of shit too. Basically, you should just use Chrome. That's it. But I don't know, man. You'd have to check for all of them. I've never had an issue though. All right. So geolocation. So one thing that we can get is a user's geolocation. Their latitude and longitude. Now this changed in Chrome 50, so you must be coming from a HTTPS or a secure site instead of a HTTP site. And you do that with this function, navigator.geolocation, and then you do whatever you want with that in your JavaScript code. Don't worry too much about this. It's a little much right now, but just know that that exists.
What does that say up there?
What?
Handling
errors or rejections. This is don't worry about this stuff. Drag and drop. Just know that you're able to get the geolocation.
Okay.
You're not ready for that, baby. You can also drag and drop stuff. You have to include a couple functions that they have pre-built here. And then you have to turn some stuff on. So we have these functions. On drag over, allow drop, in this case. And what are you dropping event? On drop, drop event, on drag. And so you can move this and drop it into the rectangle and you can set all these values. You just have to use these functions in accordance with the attributes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Local storage. We're not gonna cover this. All right, cool. So we covered all of HTML5. All of HTML, basically. We sped through a lot of it. And
didn't there still some left over?
These, I don't know these well enough to go over them. And these are more advanced anyhow. And then there's examples here, quizzes, and references. So if you want to just go down to here and pull up more references, if you get confused, this would be good for you as well. Okay. Whew. So that took what, 2.5, 3 days? Drag and drop, drag and drop, drag and drop, drag and drop.
All day.
All
day.
All day. All right.
Every day. All day, every day.
So we blazed through in 3 hours. Basically, we went through just as fast as we could HTML. We are going to do the same with CSS and JavaScript.
I think before we move, yeah, I don't know. Are you thinking about where we should go from there?
Yeah, I'm trying to think because
I think we should get me doing projects at that point, right? Because you can do front end projects with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, can't you?
Yeah, you're not ready though.
No, I'm not ready, but those are the three you use to start, right?
Yeah, let's try this. We'll do a practice run on an algorithm. Do I use Sass? Yes, I do.
What's Sass?
You
have Sass? Who knew? Who fucking knew?
All right, let's see how you do here. So factorialize a number. Here we have a function. This will be what your homework's going to be after you finish your portfolio. Is to start trying to solve these with your skills you have in JavaScript. without watching my videos on YouTube, by the way.
No.
So here we have a number, and to factorialize, you take one number and then you basically start at 1 until you hit that number and you multiply it. So in this case, 5 is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, and then you return that number. Based off what we know with if statements, for loops, returns, variables, we need to write a function that will do that for us.
Okay.
What's the matter?
I have to go back through all the shit that we've gone over just to even try to attempt this.
You're just tutoring. Why would you ever need to factorialize something? I mean, you may need to. But I mean, you would need to be able to solve something basic like this to solve the whatever it is that you need to do in the workplace. This is the third one, man. How much? It's not like I jumped into the.
What are you doing to me?
It's not like I jumped in. So what you need to do, baby, is you need to you have your.
I need to internalize JavaScript apparently to solve that, because you saying that I'm like, okay, I know the if. Yeah, how do I know how to use those totally? Not really.
Okay.
Do I have a solid understanding
All
of
right.
how to create one myself? No.
That's fine.
So to even try to solve an algorithm with something I don't even know how to create?
Okay, well,
Fuck.
let me work through this one with you, and I'll show you my thought process.
It's not that. It's okay, first off, how do you know to start an if statement? How do you know when you need to get to an else if? Or if, how do you know to go from if to else if or else?
Let me show you. We're breaking out the big whiteboard, baby. I'm gonna show you. Would you mind grabbing it?
It's not my tutoring session.
It is your tutoring session.
I'm not the tutorer. I'm the tutoree.
It's just some free tutoring, so I don't know what the Bricks Angels, welcome. Alright, so let me get something to wipe that off with. We grab a marker, please. It's not magnetic on this one.
Oh, that's why it's so cheap.
Yeah. This was a bad thing to grab.
What'd you get?
Just grab a Clorox G.
What?
Yeah.
No, you're not supposed. You just ruined the whole finish of it. It's not going to be whiteboard anymore.
No, it will be. All right,
You just took bleach to a whiteboard.
Not bleach.
What do you think Clorox is?
All right, boys.
There goes our $10 whiteboard.
Okay, so what we're going to do right now is on our screen right here, we have the instructions to factorialize this number. And what we need, with a couple of use cases, what we should return. So the way that I would solve this is I would solve the easiest one possible first.
Okay.
So, oh, you're going?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we have a test here, and it says, hey, what this is saying is if our parameter is 0, it needs to return 1. So, just with me saying that, if we're taking in 0,
Yeah, but that's them telling you. Is that right?
Well, you have to know what it means. If 0 is a number, it returns 1. That's what that's not them telling us. That's how we know to factorialize. But they're giving us some test cases here to show us that. So how can we and remember we're going to use
This is how you write it, right?
No, not that. That's for objects and that's for loops, right? So if it goes if and then the statement. What's our statement here? We have a parameter and we're trying to see if it is equal to something.
I don't know. I don't remember what an if statement looks like.
So let me remind you what an if statement is and what a for loop is and what return does.
I haven't been working on our notes because I'm trying to get this project done.
It's all right. This is we're kicking you up a notch right now. I understand it's going to be a little overwhelming, but it's all right.
A little?
Yeah. Everybody in here understands. All right. If they don't, I'll ban them. Don't worry. All right. So, if we're gonna review these 3 things. We're gonna review for loops. We're gonna review if statements, and we're gonna review a return. What return does.
Okay.
So
Write legibly.
So we'll start with if. If takes in a statement, like so.
Okay.
So if it's true, if our statement is true, and an example of that would be 1 is less than 2, or 1 is equal to 1, which are true statements. If this statement here is true, some code runs within here. Okay? If it's not true, it doesn't run. So if it's false, none of that runs in here. This is the code that doesn't run.
Okay.
So we're saying, hey, compare our statement 1 less than 2. So that's an if statement. Then there's a for loop that does some stuff. So the first thing that we have, a for loop is used to do multiple iterations, to repeat things.
Yeah, no, I know what they do.
I know, but I'm gonna inching you there, okay?
Okay.
So the first thing that we do is set on what iteration we plan on starting on, what the variable is. Typically, you're going to start var I is equal to 0. And then we're going to say while I, and this is our statement here, saying when we end our for loop, while I is less than, 3, I plus plus. What's I plus plus do again?
Adds 1.
2I. So if I is 0, I plus plus is 1. If I is 1, I plus plus is 2. Until this statement here is no longer true. And it runs that code within here. We also have the return statement. And once it hits a return, it exits out the function and sends back whatever the return is. So if this is true, and we were to return 3, it would never hit our for loop because it hit our return statement. So if our statement is true, it runs this code. If it's not, if it checks this, says it's false, it ignores this, moves on to the next line. So we got line 1, line 2. Okay. So knowing that we have a tool for iterations, knowing that if we ever hit a return, it exits the function and doesn't run any code below it, and knowing that we have a way of checking to see if something is true and doing something, let's erase this and let's start going piece by piece. And I'm going to give you the marker now. I'm going to help you, all right? So, here you go. You want to switch sides with me? So, the easiest thing that we can do is say 0 should return 1. So how would we check that? Our code in the function, we have an if statement, we have a for loop, and we have a return statement. That's our tools that we're using. We have to figure out how to put that in the correct order to get it there. So when we call the function with our parameter 0, actually it's the argument that is a parameter. Anyhow, when we pass in 0, it should return 1. How should we do that using those tools we have? So if that statement is true, how would we?
Shit.
It's all right.
Well, you start with if, and then you give it the parameters.
Yeah, what is our statement? You're right. So we start with an if. Now, what is our statement in there?
What's the statement inside?
Uh-huh. What are we checking to see if it's true?
I don't know. What? How do you even start that statement?
Well, you know how to do an if, right? So you start the if. So start the if, right? So if. Now, what are we checking? This is what the statement is. What are we checking to see if it's true or false?
How do you know what to use to check it?
Well,
what is there to check?
Well, we're checking to see if it is 0. So our test here, let's go off the test, right? If something is 0, if I say to you, if this is 0, give me $1. Return 1.
Okay.
If it's not, I'm going to go run laps.
So what? You just put 0 equals 0?
No. Remember, we have a parameter. We got to use our parameter. That's what we're checking.
What's the parameter?
The value.
No, I know what a parameter is. What is the parameter? It's 5?
0. In this case, it's 0.
Oh.
So, but we don't care. We don't care what the parameter is. We are trying to code something. We don't care if it's true or false, but we want to code it so that if it is true, something happens. If it's false, we move on to the next step of our function. But we're not worried about that part right now. We're trying to break it down piece by piece. And the first piece is.
So we're trying to see if the parameter is true?
We're trying to find out if it's 0. So you're right. One part of this is 0, right? We have to check to see if it's 0. All right, let's review parameters real quick. So let's look here. So look at our function here. In this case, we're taking in 5. So if our parameter is equal to 5, and we're checking to see if it's equal to 0, it would be false, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say, because I think you might have a better time visualizing this, that we call this function with 0 in it. Okay? And 0 is our num, right?
Yeah.
So if we have this right now, what's going to happen? What's it going to return if we don't change any code?
Nothing, because there's nothing to run it against.
No, it is running. It's going to return 0. So remember, this 0 is num, and we're returning that.
Oh.
So we return 0.
Okay.
Remember, we're passing this value into num. Kind of like a variable, right?
Okay.
So what is this returning right now?
0.
0. Cool. So how are we... num is 0 right now when we call the function. Now, if we want to check if our parameter... Remember that, because the only way our function knows what number it is we're passing in a parameter that we're calling num. If we want to check if it's equal to 0, what do we do in our if statement? We know one side has to be 0. What is it that we're checking it against?
1.
No, that's what we're returning. What is it that we're checking against? We know that we're checking if it's 0, but what are we checking in here?
0?
One side is 0, but what would it be? We're not checking to see if 0 is equal to 0. We're checking to see if 0 is equal to the what? How do we get a number in here right now? We return 0 because we have a parameter. because we're passing in parameters.
Okay, so what? We just give a statement saying if is 0, then return 1.
Yeah, if the parameter is equal to 0, return 1. That's the statement.
So if 0 is equal to 0, then return 1.
Yeah, but exactly. But we're not putting 0 in there. What we're doing is we're checking to see if this number is 0. So if this number is 3, it would fail, and we wouldn't return 1, right? So how do we write that? Based off the function we have right now. It's all right. It's all right, baby. It's all right. I know you're doing it on camera. It's a little intimidating. But all right, so what do we know? What do you think has to go in here?
Not a little.
Don't sweat it, baby. You're doing a good job. So what goes in our statement? We're trying to find out if this is true or false. Now, we have to have an equality operator. So that's less than, that's greater than.
That's what I was saying.
That's equal.
That's what I was saying.
Okay. So
when you were asking me what do we write in there, I was like, well, hasn't I been saying it equal?
oh, I misunderstood that. I'm sorry. Would you please continue?
I don't know which equal it is, though.
It's all right. Okay, so that's assigns. Remember, if this is a variable, we're going to set it equal, but we're actually checking values, not setting values.
So checking would be this one, right?
Yep. And so that's a good start, right? So is 0 equal to 0? Yes, it is. It has the same value, and remember, triple equals is type and value.
Type and value.
Okay, but this isn't taking into consideration our parameter, because this will always be true. It will never change. But let's forget about the parameter. What would we have next on our if statement? If we wanted 0, when 0 equals 0, return 1. How would we give us 1? How would we finish up this if statement? What are we returning?
1.
Okay.
I forgot how to write that, though.
You can just put 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You could also, if you had a variable that had it in there, don't forget your semicolon, because it's the end of a statement. All right. So what we've done right now, we've hard-coded this. This is always going to pass, because 0 is always equal to 0. How do we make it dynamic so that it takes into consideration our parameter? Because our parameter may not be 0. It may be 3. It may be 4. And if it's that, we need to do other stuff. Now, forget the value of the parameter. What you want to do, because that's always going to be true. 0 is always less than or equal to 0. It's all right. No, you're getting there. You're getting somewhere. Don't sweat it, baby. All right. So let's remember how to what number are we returning here when we call factorialize 3 with the 3 parameter? It's calling this function factorialize, and it is returning the parameter num. But what is the value of num?
3.
So if we were, based off here, going to try and do something similar with our code here, what would we do?
If we wanted to return 3?
No, if we wanted to use the parameter in our logic here. Remember, we know that if it's equal to 0, we always want to return 1. So it's not going to be here. So how do we...
It's got to be in there.
Yeah, and so what are we checking? We're checking a number to see if it is here.
Okay, so if so we want it to still return 1, right?
If it is equal to 0. If not, it's false and we want it to move on.
Oh.
So what is, off our factorialize, how do we incorporate our parameter, our num parameter? So what is this? So all right, let's play. I'll throw out. So if num is equal to 0, what happens?
It returns 1.
If it's equal to 1, what happens? It
Uh-huh.
evaluates our statement.
Yeah.
It says 0 is equal to 1. Is that true or false?
It's false.
So then it doesn't run our if statement, it doesn't run the code, and it moves on.
Alright.
So now, when we do this, and we'll do piece by piece, we'll type up the code you have here. So if 0 is equal to num, we want to return 1. And you should, typically you want to do triple equals. It's better convention, but either one would pass. So when we run this right now, you'll see that it returned 1. Manuel, you're welcome, man. I'm glad that your the portfolio video is doing well for you. All right, so cool. So now it gets fun. So explain to me. Thank you, Manuel. Thank you. So explain to me what it means to factorialize a number, because you're going to need to understand what that means. And okay.
I don't know.
So let's talk about that. Let's look at an example here. So if I say 5 factorial, what that means is we want to take 5 and then times it by each iteration of itself. So we have 5. If we have 5 factorial.
Is it always going to be times by 5?
Nope, it could be any number, because remember we're passing in a number.
Okay, so timesing any number by any number is called factorializing.
No. Factorializing means say a number between 1 and 10.
5.
So that would mean from 5 all the way down to 1, we would multiply 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1.
Oh.
And what we return is its value. There we go. Oops. So I guess should be blocked now. Anyhow, so we have 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1.
Okay.
And so if it was 3, it'd be 3 times 2 times 1. And it would be the factorial of that number. And so what if I say 7, what is the factorial operations?
7 times 6 times 5. Is it 7 times 6, 7 times 5, 7 times 4? Or is it...
It doesn't, because it's all multiplication. It doesn't matter if you go 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7, or 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1.
No, I know, but...
You're increasing. You're doing all the numbers between 1 and that number.
So just like this. Not 1 times 5, 2 times 5,
Nope,
3 times
just in
5.
that order like that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so knowing that we have to do multiple operations, what might we use to do something like that? And remember, our tools that we said we were going to use for this is an if statement, a for loop, and a return statement.
It's the for loop's turn.
Okay, so why don't we set up our for loop?
I don't think we've ever set up.
Yeah,
But we have.
I
We've
just
gone
said.
over it.
So it starts with the for keyword. You just kick him in the butt?
He started it.
All right.
He swapped my foot earlier today.
All right. So in our for loop, we are going to start at a certain number. Which, what is it? What do we always start at here when we're talking about factorials? Okay, so we always start factorials at 1 because it's not 0, it's not -1, it's not 2. So in a for loop,
Why do you start it at 1? What?
Why do you start at 1? Because that's how factorials work. If it's not 0, which returns 1, you start the factorial at 1. So remember 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you that part. We would start our var at 1.
Is it var or 4?
No, remember 4 takes in 3 things. It takes in where you're starting your loop at.
Like this?
Yep.
And then the var would be here?
Yes. And usually you'll use I for iterator, and you're setting your initial value right now. In this case, it's going to initially start off at 1.
Okay, so I put I?
Yes, or anything else, but typically you would put I.
Why I?
For iterator, usually. Iteration, iterator. And it's short. You don't have to do a bunch of writing. It's only one character.
Yeah, but...
Would you like to call it something else?
No. I'm not quite sure how I fits in here. What's an iterator?
So each time we run through the for loop, it does an iteration.
Okay.
So the first thing we...
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So is it I equal to?
Yes, because we're assigning, remember?
Yeah.
Now, we said that we're going to start at 1. That was your give me part. And then our semicolon, we're ending that. Now we have our ending condition, which is at some point this side, when this value here, when our statement, just like this, is no longer true, it's going to stop the for loop. What is that case here?
I'm not really sure what you're asking.
Okay, so...
Thanks, Manuel.
Alright, baby. Ignore the trolls. Baby. Come on, pay attention. This is a... Pay attention, stop it.
It's very distracting.
Alright, well, I'll close it all down. What are we doing multiple times here?
Timesing.
Okay, so when we do something multiple, we have to break it down, right? So if we want to do 1 times 2, that's 1 iteration. And then we want to take that value and we want to do it times 3, that's a second, and a third, and a fourth.
So what, you just write it like
Until you hit, well, you don't know how many times you're going to do it, so we have to do it in the for loop. And so you need something to... Damn, I'm trying to think of a way without giving this to you.
Okay, so we're still in this statement.
Yes.
Okay, I needed to know that.
Yeah, but you have to kind of understand how to solve this problem.
No, I get that, but I'm trying to understand where the statement, like, it's still continuing the statement. Okay, so...
Well, we're still setting up our for loop, yes. So right now, the next part is to set up a statement that is true now, but eventually will be false after you reach a certain amount of iterations.
What are we trying to return?
We're trying to return, remember, we're trying to return the factorial. The number that we passed in. Don't worry about this. You're worrying too much about numbers. About what the hard-coded numbers are. You have to stop thinking like, what are we trying to return when it's a 5? And you need to start trying to think, how can I return the correct number in every situation? Because you can't hard-code the answers for this.
Yeah, I don't have a thought process for that.
I know, it's alright. And we're trying to get you there. So...
Okay, so where are we trying to go with this?
So we need to set up how many times we want to run our for loop. And the way that we do that is by having a statement as this second part here. And so that would be like if we, and then the third part is where we increase by a certain amount, usually by 1 with the I++. So let's say we wanted to run this 3 times. So while I is less than 3, run our loop, and every time you run it, increase I by 1.
I forget what that looks like.
Well, let me give you an example. It's not going to be anything correct, but say we wanted to run this until I is less than 5. So this, while this is true, it's going to run the for loop.
Okay, so it's going to take I, which is equal to 1.
And then we run our for loop. So this is the for loop setup.
Okay, so what it's doing is it's going to take...
It's setting I.
It's saying I.
To 1.
I, that's 1.
That's it.
1.
It's initializing I. So, to 1.
So it's going to take this I.
And so on the first loop, I is 1. So 1 is less than 5. Are we going to run our for loop?
Yes.
Okay. And then we're going to run...
Okay, so it runs the for loop. In the for loop, it's going to...
We have code that does stuff.
Yeah, but what is it doing?
Well, I can tell you the answer. It's doing what we want to...
Yeah, is it... What is it called? Factoring?
Yeah. It's doing multiplication of some sort.
Of the numbers that we have it.
Yes. And we're storing that number and
you're storing the answer and we're running it because the I turns into that answer.
No, we don't want the I. So what happens here is we never, because remember we're multiplying. So if we do 1 times 2, I is, and we said I is equal to I times 2. And then I is equal to I times 3. Before you know it, you never actually get to your correct number, because in this case, this gets to 1. I would be 120, and 120 is definitely less than 5, right? It's not less than 5, so we never would get to the correct for loop. Milo, come on, buddy.
Shit.
Now, how do we store data? With variables.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to stop here, and I'm going to let you finish up your portfolio tonight, and you're going to review your JavaScript. Remember all the tools you have to solve problems like these. It's alright. Oh, alright, so...
Okay, I'll read chapter 18.
Alright, let's see what we missed here. Some troll on Twitch. Yeah, Godless Monkey donated $20 so that we could order April Smarter Way to Learn JavaScript. What is that smoke? Is essential oil diffuser. It's all about the parameters and variables, and it's gonna take you a while, baby. Like, I know I was kind of trying my best to baby step you there, and you I think you got the num part a little bit, but this is programming at the end of the day. You solve problems.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with the numbers and everything to do with the sentencing, like the structure. So that you can plug in any number and it works.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have that type of like thought process at
No.
all. I need you to give me like an outcome and then I can give you.
Okay,
So
here.
it's a really different.
I give you 20. Program this out. It's something in the trillions.
I can't do that right now.
Yeah, I know. See, baby, everyone gets it, baby. The reason that you can't do it is because you don't know what number is going to come out. But if it helps you, similar with how we solved one test at a time, go ahead and do that.
Okay.
And then I'll help you refactor. Have I considered doing an Ask a Dev video on video over why devs ought to use Visual Studio or some other IDE? I have not. I think everyone should use what they want. I actually use Visual Studio Code at home, and at work I use PHP Storm because that's what my boss uses, and I'm not that particular about it. But alright guys, thank you for watching. As always, look forward to tomorrow, which I think will be at a hackathon. And we will be doing you might just see a live stream of a hackathon for a bit. And I'll do my best to explain some advanced topics as I'm trying to win monies. And fame and glory and bitches. No bitches. Yeah, so that might be a special video. I'm going to have April come with me and kind of dive in a little bit.
Dive in. I'm just going to soak in the environment and be focusing on my apparently Java skills that I don't have.
It's alright. JavaScript.
JavaScript.
This is, by the way, this is much harder than, and you see how HTML and CSS you got much easier? JavaScript is where a lot of the issues are for people, and part of the reason for that is because you have to relearn how to think properly. Because now you have to be more logical. You have to say, hey, how do we go to that? How do I go to that place where I'm not thinking how to solve for 5?
I'm just thinking of how to structure this so that it'll always solve for any number.
Yes. That's how programming works.
Yeah, I know. It's fucking awful.
All right. Well, you did a good job, baby. I know it's intimidating, especially because I know I stare at things and I feel stupid, and I just like, why don't I understand this? Or I don't. You're telling me all I have to do is multiply numbers, and I don't see how. So I know how to multiply.
It's so true.
It's all right, baby. Everyone's there, myself included. You've seen me through classes being very stressed, not understanding things, and having to go to tutoring sessions and having to get help from classmates and studying outside of work and all that sort of stuff. And it's taken me a while to get to where I am. I don't expect you to get it in 1 hour tutoring session right now. So, but this is what's in the near future. So all those skills, all those tools that you need to know. And that's why I'm gonna start you off when we start struggling through here. If you want me to, I'll say, hey, these are the skills that you should use in here, or hey, and then you can go and review. Okay, what the hell does a return statement do again? What is an if state? How does an if statement work? How does a for loop work again? And maybe you can go review it, and I'll give you a little hint that way. And sometimes Free Code Camp does as well. That sort of stuff, not so much. Maybe about this. Harder ones where where you probably have to use special libraries and stuff. They will, or they do. With that being said, guys, special whiteboard edition tonight at the end. I think I pushed her to her limit today. She's looking a little stressed and tired. You feel like a god when you do. You do feel like a god, a coding god, as one might say around here.
Just coding around the house. Yes!
On occasion.
Just like, boom, baby!
With that being said, guys, I appreciate you watching and being here for day 17 of April Learns to Code. We're ramping up to day 20, where I think kind of time to kick it up a notch. We're time to jump into JavaScript, and so it's going to be rough. It's going to be hard, but I'm gonna do my best to help April out with it and keep her sane.
It's not gonna be hard. It's gonna be fucking frustrating.
Yeah.
If it was hard, at least I could do hard. I cannot. I suck at frustration.
With that being said, thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget to join the Facebook group Code Tech and Caffeine. The link is in the description below. And if you want to support me, you can at patreon.com/codingtutorials360. Help us get to that 4K video, that 4K webcam, some lighting, and upgrade the content of the quality, and get discounts on future courses that may be coming in the near future. A little hint. Hinty hint hint. Anyhow, guys, I appreciate you all. See you, I guess, tomorrow at the hackathon or something similar. You wanna lead us out, baby?
Sure. Code long and password.
You did good.